We have some updates on Michael Burry's positions. He is buying LULU, and it looks like he's calling the top to this AI bubble right now. So LULU, not doing great, but Michael Burry is confident. He's calling the bottom here. Let me pull up the other chart for that one. Looks a bit nicer. So we got LULU right here. Now this one is very beaten down. 70% off the top here. And I have a blueprint on here, kind of projecting what I hope will happen into the end of the year. And it's nice to see that Michael Burry is also kind of in the same, or he's thinking the same kind of thing, it looks like. Let me pull up the Michael Burry thing. Oh my gosh, what do we have? All right, here we go. Yeah, we'll pop him in right here. So Michael Burry released a 13F filing showing his positions. And you can see, oh no, this one looks kind of bad. Let me pull up a better version of this. Michael Burry, that screenshot's pretty bad. What's this one look like? Yeah, this is a lot better. So here we go. Michael Burry's positions on LULU, and just shorting the market in general. The AI bubble is probably coming to an end. Now he does tend to be a little bit early, but what I like to see is the LULU position right here. So he's got 50,000 shares. He's added 100%. So he's got 100,000 shares of LULU in total. So he's trying to bounce LULU, which is really interesting. Now, it looks like he had some LULU calls over here, which were sold at some point. But regardless, he is long on Pfizer calls, 600 or 6 million. NVIDIA puts. So he's got NVIDIA puts, PLTR puts. Those are probably the most notable changes here. So he's shorting essentially the AI bubble, and he's buying other undervalued stocks. So we have LULU, Pfizer, HAL, Energy. Pretty interesting, and this kind of correlates with what I think is going to happen too. Yeah, so let's take a look at this LULU chart again. So again, we got 70% off the top pretty much. Yeah, about 70% from back here in 2023, 2024 January area. Started the downtrend, and this blueprint hopefully will play out into the end of the year like this. We do have a trend break on LULU. So trend break right here on the daily chart, and that's usually significant. We'll see if it holds up. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but so far it's holding the trend. It's pulling back to the trend line, so we call this breakout pullback to the trend line. It does need to hold the trend line though, otherwise this could keep going lower. I've got a bigger trend here that it kind of tested, and we want to see that one break too. So we always throw the trends on to double check our ideas, because the trends should hold up pretty well if it's going to work. So you can imagine back here, we have a bit of a trend line like this. So if I put it on like this, look what happened though. This retested way lower, so we don't want to see that. We want to see this low be the bottom. So the trend needs to hold up something like this. Okay, break out, pull back to the trend line, and then come back up, start reclaiming these moving averages. Something like that would be a really, really nice best case scenario for us, for LULU. And then eventually we get these moving averages crossing back over. And then we get some kind of move to the upside. So that's what we want to see happen down here. We could see a pullback to the trend line. It could happen. Hopefully not too much more. But it is nice to see that Michael Burry is on board with this idea, because we've been watching this for a while and it looks like he agrees. Now he's also calling the top on the AI bubble. KV is another one we were looking at. This is Tylenol, but we got a pretty clean trend break right here. We have earnings, so it's breaking on earnings. We'll see if it can hold up, but that's a nice trend break. And we have a blueprint to match. So we're hoping that the blueprint plays out. These are just guidelines. But Burry is short NVIDIA. This was a little guesstimation I had back here. Let me remove this. Wow. So this is just insane. We go back over to this. NVIDIA put. So PLTR. So we'll look at those in Pfizer as well. So NVIDIA puts. Now NVIDIA is pushing pretty aggressively still. Burry has a tendency to be a little bit early. Just like the 2008 bubble housing crisis situation. He was about 3 years early to that. So these things can just continue going a lot farther than you think. I would want to wait for some kind of moving average breakdown, maybe a trend break. Just like on the long side, you know, if I was shorting this, I don't want to be early. I don't want to step in front of it too soon. But there should be some really easy trend breaks setting up. Just classic stuff like back here, potential top. You never really know for sure. But at least we can put a trend on and see something like this. Maybe this was the place to try right over here. And it did have a nice crack, pulled back quite a bit. And then it reclaimed. So we got to watch out for the reclaim. If it makes new highs, obviously there's a problem. But so far, I would say there's not really a trend break on NVIDIA. This is just going higher. We could see a pretty quick breakdown, but usually there's a lot more time than you think on this kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if this just chops around a bunch. Maybe it goes sideways for 6 months before finally breaking down. If it does break down, it could be the top. It's definitely kind of a crazy chart. Very, very extended for sure. And I do think AI is in a bubble. A lot of hype and momentum around AI. So NVIDIA is one of the big stocks behind this AI sector. GPUs, super important. Crypto also important for crypto, which is, I don't know if the crypto is going to top out or not. Let's take a look at Pfizer real quick. This was another Burry play. So again, we look back here. Pfizer calls Q3. I'm also long Pfizer. So I bought back here. We had a little bit of a trend break right there. So kind of a small trend break on the daily. So I bought on this break. So I'm long from around 24.50. There's a bit of a bigger trend break right here as well. I do like the trend breaks. So we have a trend breakout, pull back to that trend line, and then it had a rip. Now this is back whenever Pfizer went to the White House and was talking to Trump about changing the prices for Americans on drugs because we're kind of gouging Americans and the rest of the world has cheaper prices. So they are trying to normalize that a little bit. And we'll see what happens with this. I think Pfizer potentially is bottomed out. Looks like maybe a inverse head and shoulders at the bottom here, which is a classic bottom out pattern. We've seen it with GameStop and other stocks as well. So this is a potential bottom. Never really know for sure. But we have a blueprint on it as well. So we're kind of hoping we see this sort of pattern play out. Again, inverse head and shoulders on the blueprint. Same exact pattern. Potential bottom pattern. So we're looking at the technicals. We're looking at fundamentals. Combining some things together. Trying to get some nice swing trades going. And it's kind of nice to see Burry is on board with the same kind of plays. Who knows what he's looking at exactly, but this is what I'm looking at. What else did he have? Burry is in Hal. Oh yeah, PLTR, another one. PLTR is more of a defense type stock. Now that we have the Department of War doing things around the world, I don't know, kind of helped PLTR pop. But absolutely extended is up a ton. Again, you never really know how far these things can go. What an amazing breakout back here from this 2021 high. Broke out in 2024, and it's just been up since. So pretty incredible move. Again, pushing all-time highs. So Burry's shorting this at the top. So he's trying to top tick. I don't top tick things. I do more of a trend breakdown type move. I don't like to be early. I'd rather be a little bit late. And if you're early, don't come. So we'll see how this plays out. Obviously, mega extension. And getting a bit of a blow off top type move. Extending through the highs right there. These moves can be irrational for a lot longer than you think. So I'd rather see kind of a chop, maybe sideways action for a few months, and then breaking down to the moving averages. Break down, pull back to moving averages, and then maybe we see some downside. Kind of like back here. Well, there's not as much action over here, so it's not as clean looking. But we do have extension at the top, double top fake out move, break down to the moving averages, retest the moving averages, and then several months of fade, backside, new lows. And then again over here. So sideways, see inverse head and shoulders, tried to bottom out, but then it ended up breaking down. So we had more downside, kind of a trend break, breakdown pullback on the trend line and moving averages into fade. So that's the backside. That's what the backside should look like. And this can chop around a lot more than you think. RGTI is one of these quantum stocks. So again, this is kind of what we're seeing on quantum. Now this is mega extended as well. And everybody knows this company makes no money, so they're kind of a hole in the wall, nothing company. But they've managed to push all the way up to this $57 level from $1 just 1 year ago. So kind of insane move, and everybody knows it. So this is just a mega crowded short squeeze. Martin Shkreli was in it, shorting from this $14, $13 area, 15s, and he had to cut that because, well, it kept going higher. So price action is king. So the evaluation of the company doesn't really matter so much whenever it's trading irrationally. That's why we look at the technicals too, on top of the fundamentals. Both are important. Price action's always king. But I am expecting quantum to come down and kind of follow this blueprint pattern. We got this big blow off top type move, pull back. Now we're doing the bounce. We want to see the bounce short. So we did hit this short back here, covered this dip. Now we're waiting for the bounce short. These are swing trades on these stocks. So I'm not too interested on the day-by-day action, but what really matters is the daily chart, maybe the 4-hour chart too. But you can kind of see this has bounced right into that 20 moving average, so that might have been the perfect place to take the short. We'll see. I still think it's a little bit early. Hopefully a better trend line will form here. Let me pull it into the 4-hour real quick and we'll see what we're dealing with. Yeah, it's kind of just chopping sideways. Potentially it could break down here, but it's just not super clear yet to me. And this blueprint kind of tells you the timeline we might be looking at. You never really know. But there is time for this to play out more. It gives a better feel for how this could play out. But ultimately, we kind of expect this to go back towards the $20 zone. Maybe 15 even, before too much longer. It could take into April, though, of next year. We'll see. This is going to be one of those big plays. We'll be keeping an eye on that. I just want to look at one more stock for the swing trades, BMNR. This one has so much potential on it, but it's very tied to Ethereum. Crypto's kind of having a tough time right now. Bitcoin's at 103. And now you can see from the blueprint here, we've got incredible potential. If it plays out like that, it doesn't have to, obviously. But it gives us an idea of what to expect. Now back here on this day, Trump kind of killed it, I think, by saying 100% tariffs on China. But who knows? He's flip-flopping on that. There's a trade deal with China, apparently. So this is kind of up in the air right now. Again, we're using these trend lines as a guide. So I'm not long yet. But I am waiting for this trend line right here to break. So I want to see this one break. Maybe it comes back up to 51. Maybe I can get it in that area. And then we'll see if it has the follow through or not. Bitcoin, of course, that BMNR is very tied to Bitcoin. So, and Ethereum, crypto in general, but Ethereum specifically for BMNR, but Ethereum kind of follows Bitcoin, right? So what's Bitcoin doing? Following the blueprint. That's what it's doing so far. It's pulling back as we predicted perfectly so far, following that blueprint. So I wouldn't expect it to go too much lower than 100K. If it breaks 100K too much, then Bitcoin might be in trouble. But if it pulls back to 100, holds, we get a nice trend break like this, then I wouldn't be surprised if this pushes back towards 150 before too much longer. It could be more explosive than this blueprint says, but so far it's following really nicely. It needs to consolidate, kind of prove itself, hold some dips, take out these lows over here, test the will of some crypto holders, and then reclaim. Then we have a chance to push back into 150. Maybe our BMNR idea will play out in that time frame. So we'll keep an eye on that. I thought it was interesting that Burry was on LULU. So I like to see that kind of aligning with my trade idea.